The alien battleship Varzok floated near the edge of the dead zone. The crew was silent, watching the strange object ahead, a broken, drifting human freighter. It had no power, no signals, no weapons. It looked like a grave in space. Captain. Skarn of the Zarketh Empire leaned forward, his red eyes narrowed. "Scan it again," he ordered. The scanner officer hissed. "No life signs, no energy. It is dead, sir." Skarn grinned. "Then we board it. Take trophies. Show the galaxy. What happens to those who challenge us?" 5 soldiers armed with shock rifles entered the docking bay and crossed over to the human ship. The metal was cold, lights were dead, gravity was low. They opened the airlock. Darkness swallowed them. "Light up," said one soldier. They turned on their helmet lights. The corridor was quiet, like the inside of a tomb. "Cowards," one muttered. They ran from battle, left this behind. But the walls told a different story. Scratches, scorch marks, bullet holes, and blood. The Zarketh soldiers moved slowly now. One stopped and pointed. "Look at that." On the wall, written in dark red, was a word, scratched with something sharp. "Run." The soldiers laughed nervously. Trying to scare us? Typical humans. They always act brave after losing, but none of them laughed long. The ship suddenly powered up, just for a second. Lights flickered, a siren wailed, then everything went black again. "What was that?" the squad leader asked. "Ghost systems, nothing to fear," replied another, but his voice shook. Then they heard a sound. Click, 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 from the ceiling. They aimed their weapons up but saw nothing. "Split up," the leader said. "Find the control room." 2 went left. 2 went right. The leader stayed in the center. Moments later, one of the soldiers screamed. "Karnak? Report," the leader barked. No answer. "Fall back. Everyone return to the airlock." Only one soldier came back. He was bleeding, limping. His helmet was cracked. It's not empty," he gasped. "What do you mean?" "There's something here." The leader grabbed him. "What did you see?" But the soldier didn't answer. His eyes were wide, frozen in fear. Then he collapsed. Dead. The leader tried to contact the ship. "Captain Skarn, we've lost contact with..." Suddenly the airlock closed, locked. The lights turned red. Behind him, he heard the click again. He turned, weapon ready, but there was nothing. Then, from the shadows, a figure stepped forward. Human, but this was not normal. His armor was black like space itself. His eyes glowed faintly, and he moved like death, silent and sure. "You," the leader growled. "You're alone." The human didn't speak. He just raised his hand, and the Zarketh's weapon flew out of his grip, pulled by some strange force. Then the human whispered, his voice cold and sharp. "You should have run." Screams echoed through the ship. "On the battleship, Captain." Skarn watched the live feed. Then it went dark. "Get them out," Skarn shouted. But the ship's systems were failing. Every connection to the freighter was dead. Then, just as suddenly, the screen returned. One Zarketh soldier was alive. He crawled through the corridor, wounded and shaking. His helmet camera showed broken bodies and blood-stained walls. He was crying. "Please, I don't want to die, please." A shadow passed behind him. The soldier screamed, then silence. The camera feed cut. Skarn stood still. No one on the bridge spoke. Then the freighter's lights came on. Its engines powered up. But no one had entered any commands. The freighter turned. It was facing them now. "That's impossible," the scanner officer whispered. The freighter sent a message, a single sentence. One was spared. Captain Skarn felt cold for the first time in his life. "What does it mean?" someone asked. But Skarn already knew. They weren't fighting humans anymore. They were fighting something worse, something that remembered, something that was coming. And they had made one mistake. They let one human survive. The grand hall of the Zarketh Empire was filled with light, gold, and pride. Alien leaders from across the galaxy sat in high chairs. They had long horns, glowing skin, or sharp teeth. They spoke in loud voices, proud and powerful. At the center of the room, the High Chancellor stood and raised his hands. "The humans are weak," he declared. "They are few in number. Their worlds are broken. Their fleets are gone. What threat do they pose now?" The others nodded and cheered, but one general did not clap. His name was Vokar. He had seen something most had not. His scars were from battles where victory tasted bitter, and fear still lived in his memory. He stood up slowly. "You are wrong," he said. The room went quiet. "Wrong?" said the Chancellor, angry. "You dare question the might of our empire?" Vokar spoke clearly. "You laugh at humans. You call them weak. But do you not see the signs? They are not running. They are not hiding. They are hunting." A few leaders hissed and shook their heads, but others stayed silent. Vokar looked around. "Our outposts are vanishing. Our scouts go missing. Our soldiers return with dead eyes, if they return at all. Something has changed in the humans." "They're just angry," said one counselor. "They lost the war. Now they try to scare us with tricks." Vokar slammed his hand on the table. One human ship turned our strongest destroyer into wreckage. One survivor returned to us shaking with terror, repeating the same words. "They let me live." "They want peace through fear," said another. "Let them come. We will crush them again." But Vokar looked into their eyes and saw the same pride that had once led them to war, and nearly to ruin. "They don't want peace," Vokar whispered. "They want us to feel what they felt. And they will not stop." Far away, in the shadows of space, a lone Zarketh cruiser moved toward a mining colony. Its mission was simple: reconnect, communications, and re-establish order. The crew joked and laughed as they landed, but the colony was silent. Buildings stood like empty bones. Lights flickered. The ground was scorched. They found no bodies. Just one thing, painted in blood across the landing pad. "Do you remember Earth?" Back in the council chamber, a transmission came in. It was from a distant station on the edge of their empire. The screen flickered with static. The image cleared, just for a moment. A Zarketh captain appeared on screen. His face was bleeding. Behind him, alarms screamed and lights flashed. "They're here," he cried. "We didn't see them, they didn't land, they just appeared. We begged for mercy." Static. Then a new voice. Human. Calm. Cold. "Mercy was the last thing you gave us." The transmission ended. The room froze. For the first time in decades, the council felt fear. High Chancellor Tazir stood again, face pale. "This is terrorism," he shouted. "They attack in the shadows. They do not face us with honor." Vokar rose slowly. His voice was like ice. "You destroyed Earth with fire. You killed billions. You called it cleansing. Now, you face what comes after." Another counselor, older and wise, spoke softly. "What do they want, General Vokar?" Vokar looked out the window toward the stars. "They want us to remember," he said. "And they want one of us to carry that memory." Somewhere else in the galaxy, a human ship floated in silence. Inside, Commander Rourke stood in a black hallway speaking to his soldiers. Humans reborn from war, enhanced and silent. "We let one live each time," he said. "Just one. So they can tell the story. So they can carry the fear." He turned toward a screen showing a map of the Zarketh Empire. "We begged once, they laughed, now they will beg, and we will walk away so they never forget." The outer rim of the Zarketh Empire was once strong. Now it was silent. Outpost 9 did not respond. Mining Station Krell 42 stopped sending cargo. Patrol Fleet Delta 7 never returned. The Zarketh called it bad luck. But the captains knew something was wrong. They sent Fleet Mirage, a group of 10 powerful warships, to investigate. The fleet vanished. No signals, no wreckage, nothing, only silence. 3 days later, a tiny shuttle drifted into Zarketh space. It had no engine power, no weapons. Its hull was black, scorched by plasma. Zarketh patrol ships brought it in. Inside, they found a single survivor. His name was Takar, one of the soldiers from Fleet Mirage. His body was broken. His eyes were empty. The medical team tried to speak with him. "What happened?" they asked. Takar stared ahead. "They were waiting for us." "Who?" "The humans," he whispered. "Did they talk to you?" Takar's lips trembled. "They didn't need to. They let me go." He began shaking. "They killed everyone. And spared me. So I could come back." His voice became a scream. "They let me live. They let me live." Doctors sedated him. But the fear in his voice spread like poison. At the Zarketh Central Fleet Command, Admiral Zorak watched the recordings from Takar's shuttle. They showed pieces of the battle, ships torn apart. No weapons fired from the human side, only stealth. Something boarded each ship. One by one, the lights went out. No survivors, no sounds, just shadows. And in the middle of it all, a human warship. Sleek, silent, black as space. Its name glowed red on the hull. Remember. Panic started to spread. At first, only in whispers. "Ghost fleets," some said. "The humans don't fight like before," said others. "They disappear, they strike, they leave one witness." Soon commanders began pulling back from the outer zones. Stations were left empty. Ships refused to go on patrol. Fear had done what firepower could not. The Zarketh Empire was shrinking from the inside. High Chancellor Tazir called an emergency meeting. "This is madness," he shouted. "We are being hunted by ghosts." Vokar stood quietly in the corner. He did not speak until Tazir turned to him and said, "You were a warrior once. Speak. What do you see?" Vokar answered calmly, "See revenge. I see a lesson being taught slowly, painfully." Another counselor hissed, "Then we strike their worlds. Burn what remains." Vokar shook his head. "There are no worlds to burn. They live in their ships now. They have become shadows." Tazir slammed his fist. "Then how do we stop them?" Vokar looked at him with tired eyes. "You don't." In deep space far beyond Zarketh scanners, the human ship Remember hovered above a burning cruiser. Inside, Commander Rourke stood over a captured Zarketh soldier. "You killed cities," Rourke said softly. "Now you'll carry their memory." The alien trembled. "Why me?" Rourke leaned closer. "Because fear spreads faster than war." He handed the prisoner a small case. "Inside is a recording. Play it when you get home. Let them hear our voices." The Zarketh was released in an escape pod. As it drifted into the stars, he looked back at the human ship, still watching. Back in Zarketh territory, the pod was recovered. The soldier was taken in for questioning. He opened the case. Inside was a single hollow recording. He pressed play. The image of Earth appeared, burning, human children screaming, skies filled with fire. Then a human voice. "You killed our world. We begged. You didn't listen. Now we don't speak. We don't beg. We remember." The recording ended with silence. Then the screen showed one word. "Run." The council saw the video. Their faces were pale. "They're not just fighting," one whispered. "They're teaching us." Tazir said nothing. He finally understood. The humans weren't attacking to win a war. They were rewriting fear into the hearts of every Zarketh. One survivor at a time. The outer rim of the Zarketh Empire was once strong. Now, it was silent. Outpost 9 did not respond. Mining Station Krell 42 stopped sending cargo. Patrol Fleet Delta 7 never returned. The Zarketh called it bad luck. But the captains knew something was wrong. They sent Fleet Miraz, a group of 10 powerful warships, to investigate. The Ley fleet vanished. No signals, no wreckage, nothing. Only silence. 3 days later, a tiny shuttle drifted into Zarketh space. It had no engine power, no weapons. Its hull was black, scorched by plasma. Zarketh patrol ships brought it in. Inside, they found a single survivor. His name was Takar, one of the soldiers from Fleet Miraz. His body was broken. His eyes were empty. The medical team tried to speak with him. "What happened?" they asked. Takar stared ahead. "They were waiting for us." "Who?" "The humans," he whispered. "Did they talk to you?" Takar's lips trembled. "They didn't need to. They let me go." He began shaking. "They killed everyone. And spared me. So I could come back." His voice became a scream. "They let me live. They let me live." Doctors sedated him. But the fear in his voice spread like poison. At the Zarketh Central Fleet Command, Admiral Zorak watched the recordings from Takar's shuttle. They showed pieces of the battle, ships torn apart. No weapons fired from the human side, only stealth. Something boarded each ship. One by one, the lights went out. No survivors, no sounds, just shadows. And in the middle of it all, a human warship. Sleek, silent, black as space. Its name glowed red on the hull. Remember. Panic started to spread. At first, only in whispers. Ghost fleets, some said. The humans don't fight like before, said others. They disappear, they strike, they leave one witness. Soon commanders began pulling back from the outer zones. Stations were left empty. Ships refused to go on patrol. Fear had done what firepower could not. The Zarketh Empire was shrinking from the inside. High Chancellor Tazir called an emergency meeting. "This is madness," he shouted. "We are being hunted by ghosts." Vokar stood quietly in the corner. He did not speak until Tazir turned to him and said, "You were a warrior once. Speak. What do you see?" Vokar answered calmly, "See revenge. I see a lesson being taught slowly, painfully." Another counselor hissed, "Then we strike their worlds. Burn what remains." Vokar shook his head. "There are no worlds to burn. They live in their ships now. They have become shadows." Tazir slammed his fist. "Then how do we stop them?" Vokar looked at him with tired eyes. "You don't. In deep space, far beyond Zarketh scanners, the human ship Remember hovered above a burning cruiser. Inside, Commander Rourke stood over a captured Zarketh soldier. "You killed cities," Rourke said softly. "Now you'll carry their memory." The alien trembled. "Why me?" Rourke leaned closer. "Because fear spreads faster than war." He handed the prisoner a small case. "Inside is a recording. Play it when you get home. Let them hear our voices." The Zarketh was released in an escape pod. As it drifted into the stars, he looked back at the human ship, still watching. Back in Zarketh territory, the pod was recovered. The soldier was taken in for questioning. He opened the case. Inside was a single hollow recording. He pressed play. The image of Earth appeared, burning, human children screaming, skies filled with fire. Then a human voice. "You killed our world. We begged. You didn't listen. Now we don't speak. We don't beg. We remember." The recording ended with silence. Then the screen showed one word. "Run." The council saw the video. Their faces were pale. "They're not just fighting," one whispered. "They're teaching us." Tazir said nothing. He finally understood. The humans weren't attacking to win a war. They were rewriting fear into the hearts of every Zarketh, one survivor at a time. There was only one survivor now, not of a battle, not of a planet, but of an empire. High Chancellor Tazir sat in a silent cell on a forgotten moon. Not a prison. A memory. A place where the Zarketh once held their enemies. Now it held him. By his own order, He had locked himself away. The once mighty Zarketh Empire was gone, its fleets lost, its worlds dark, its people broken by fear they could not kill, and through it all, the humans said nothing. No threats, no demands, only silence. Only the word burned into every wall. Remember, Tazir had tried to warn them, but no one believed. Now alone in the cold, he waited for the last message, the last visit. He knew they would come. They always left one alive, and he still was. Light footsteps echoed through the empty hallway. Tazir sat up. He knew that sound, not rushed, not loud, calm, controlled, human. Commander. Rourke walked into the chamber, still wearing black armor. No flag, no army, no expression, just one soldier. The last face Tazir ever wanted to see. You came, Tazir whispered. Rourke nodded. You lived. I regret it. Rourke didn't blink. That's why you're still here. Tazir stood slowly, his body weak with age and fear. We were proud once. We ruled the stars. Rourke tilted his head. You ruled graves. Silence fell. Tazir stepped forward. I was wrong. Rourke didn't answer. He just walked over to a blank wall and touched it. A light blinked. The wall changed. It showed Earth before the war. Blue. Bright. Alive. Tazir gasped. You kept this? Rourke nodded. So we never forget what you took. Tazir fell to his knees. I saw it fall. I ordered the attack. He looked up with shaking hands. Then I watched the silence come. Rourke finally spoke. It's not silence. It's memory. Tazir's voice cracked. Then why did you let me live? Rourke stared at him, calm as always. Because when we are gone, only your fear will remain. Tazir lowered his head. Are you the last? Rourke looked away for the first time. Maybe. Elsewhere, deep in the asteroid base called Remember, Vale stood before a black wall. It was covered with names. Thousands. Some Zarketh, some human. All witnesses, all survivors. One young recruit approached her. Why do we still hide? They're finished. Vale didn't turn. We're not hiding, we're watching. Waiting for revenge, the recruit asked. Vale smiled coldly. No. Waiting for history. Back in the prison cell, Tazir leaned against the wall. You've already won. Why are you still here? Rourke stepped back. I'm not here to end you. He walked to the door. I'm here so you never forget. He paused before leaving. You'll wake up every day and wonder if this is the day we return. Tazir shouted. After him. But you're only one. Rourke didn't turn. One is enough. One always survives. After Rourke left, the lights dimmed again. Tazir was alone once more. But the silence felt heavier now. Not peaceful. Heavy like a shadow. The kind that never leaves. He curled up against the wall, shaking, crying, and whispering one word again and again. Remember. Far. Across the stars in a deep dark system no ship dared to enter. A single beacon blinked. It was old, human, but alive. A new message played. We are not here for peace. We are not here for war. We are the price you pay, Ama, for forgetting mercy. We are memory. And memory never dies. The galaxy grew quiet. Empires stopped growing. Warlords stopped invading. Even pirates stayed near safe planets. Because everyone knew in the dark, in the silence, if you hurt enough, they come. And if they come, they leave one behind. So others may fear. The galaxy had gone quiet. No more empires expanding. No more planets burned. No more proud flags raised in blood. Everyone feared the same thing now. The ones who never spoke. The ones who struck without warning. The ones who never asked for peace. Humans. Children were told bedtime stories across alien worlds, stories about the shadows from Earth, about soldiers who wore no colors, about the word burned into metal walls. Remember. At first they were just stories, but then ships still disappeared. Fleets went missing. One survivor always returned, just one, always shaking, always changed. On a forgotten moon, the last chancellor of Zarketh, Tazir, sat alone in his cold chamber. Years had passed. He no longer waited for food or visitors or light. He only waited for the dreams to stop. But they never did. Each night, he saw Earth burning. Each night, he heard the voice. We begged. You laughed. Now we remember. One day the door opened. No guards. No sounds. Just air and a shadow. He stood slowly, his old bones creaking. You again? He whispered into the dark. No answer came. Only a data chip was placed on the floor. He picked it up with shaking hands. The label was a single word. Truth. Tazir inserted it into the old screen on his wall. A video played. Images of Earth, its oceans, its skies, its people. Before the war, children dancing. Scientists building, families laughing. Then, the day Zarketh ships arrived, the screams, the fires, and one voice. Soft, broken, full of fear. Please, just let us live. Then silence. Then a new face, Commander Rourke, older now, his voice calm, tired, final. You took everything from us. But you didn't kill us. You made us something else. We were not your enemies. We were your warning. Rourke looked straight into the camera, eyes full of something worse than rage, full of memory. They asked why we didn't destroy the Zarketh completely. I told them, extinction is quick, fear is forever. We left one alive. Every time, not out of mercy, but so the galaxy would never forget what happens. When mercy dies, the screen went black. Tazir dropped the chip. He fell to his knees and wept, not for his people, not for his throne, but for the truth. Because now he understood. The humans had never wanted revenge. They wanted to become a story. And stories never die. Far away, in a hidden system beyond charted space, a single ship floated in silence. Remember, its engines were cold, its weapons powered down. No crew moved inside. And yet, something pulsed at its core, not light, not sound, something deeper. Memory. In time, new species rose. Curious, bold, they explored old ruins, found old recordings, and heard whispers of a people who vanished into the dark, a people who never spoke, never forgave, never forgot. One brave explorer once found the ship, Remember. He boarded carefully. Everything was dark, silent, except for one wall. It lit up when he touched it. A message appeared, simple, powerful. We were never gone. He left the ship, told no one, destroyed the footage, because he finally understood. The humans didn't die. They became something else. They became the story that stops wars, the silence that follows cruelty, the shadow that watches when the powerful raise their hand, and across the galaxy, from the richest worlds to the dustiest mining stations, everyone knew one rule: be kind, be just, be merciful, or they will come and leave only you to spread the fear. The void was never empty. It only pretended to be. Zarketh ships moved carefully now. They didn't travel alone. They used tight formations, full scans, and armed guards even during sleep cycles. Still, they vanished. And always, one survivor floated back through the darkness, sometimes wounded, sometimes mad, always afraid. Fleet Commander Rizek did not believe in ghosts. He believed in numbers, strategy, and power. So when the Zarketh High Council ordered him to take a massive fleet, over 50 warships, to crush the human threat once, and for all, he accepted with pride. We will find their base, he told his officers. We will burn it. No one comes back this time, not even one. They jumped to the dead zone, a part of space where dozens of attacks had happened. It was quiet. Too quiet. The scanners picked up nothing. No movement. No life. No signals. Just stars. And something else. A signal. One word. Over and over. Remember. The crew grew nervous. "Sir, it's not coded," said the comms officer. "It's just a loop." Rizek narrowed his eyes. "Trace it." They followed the signal to a small icy moon. The fleet formed a blockade in orbit. Rizek sent down an elite strike team, 50 of the best Zarketh soldiers. They entered a cave. Inside was a single object, a human helmet sitting on a stone. The Sadie lights on their suits flickered. One by one, the soldiers' vitals flatlined. Then silence. No alarms, no gunfire, just black. Rizek watched the vitals disappear. "Bring them back," he ordered. The shuttle returned. There was only one inside. The pilot, shaking, bleeding, breathing fast. "They didn't shoot," the pilot said. "They were already in the cave watching." Rizek growled. "You didn't see them?" The pilot nodded slowly. "I did. Just once." He leaned closer. They were human, but not alive. In the darkness between stars, the human ship, Remember, glided through space like a shadow. Inside, Commander Rourke stood with his team. One of his lieutenants, a quiet woman named Vale, spoke. "Zarketh fleet is above the moon. They think we're hiding." Rourke smiled coldly. "Then let's give them something to remember." Below the Zarketh fleet, strange power readings began to show. "Sir," the sensor officer called out, "I'm picking up a movement below the surface." "What kind of movement?" Rizek asked. "Not one ship. Many. Dozens." Then, silence. Then, EMP burst. Every Zarketh ship's lights went dark. Engines stopped. Weapons died. Then the boarding began. Human assault teams hit fast and hard. They didn't speak. They didn't shout. They moved like shadows, each wearing the sigil. Remember, each team struck silently, cutting off systems, removing weapons, vanishing into vents. Zarketh soldiers tried to fight. They screamed orders, fired blindly, set traps. Nothing worked. Then, across every ship's internal comms, a human voice spoke calmly. "You're not soldiers. You're messengers now. One of you will live." Commander Rizek's flagship was the last to fall. He locked the bridge and armed the ship's self-destruct. But then, the lights flickered. A figure appeared on the bridge. Human. Tall. Cold. Covered in black armor. No sound. No weapon drawn. Just watching. Rizek raised his plasma rifle. "Fight me," he roared. The human didn't move. Then he stepped aside, showing the escape pod. Rizek understood. They wanted him to live. He dropped his rifle and walked toward the pod, hands shaking. He looked back one last time. The human had vanished. Back on Zarketh Prime, the council gathered. Rizek knelt before them. He was once proud. Now he was quiet. "They took everything," he said. "And left you?" asked the chancellor. Rizek nodded. "They wanted me to tell you something." He held up a black shard, part of a human ship, etched into the metal. "No mercy in the void, only memory." Vokar stood in the corner, silent as always. He had seen the human pattern. He knew what came next. "We are losing without war," he said. "They are killing our courage, before our armies." The counselors finally looked afraid, because for the first time, they knew. This was not a human war anymore. It was a message, one sent in blood and silence, and the galaxy was listening. Zarketh, Prime, once the heart of the most powerful empire in the galaxy, was now full of fear. The skies were clear. The palace still stood, but the silence in the streets told the truth. The people were afraid to speak, afraid to move, afraid to breathe. The High Council chambers, once loud with debate and pride, had changed too. Now, the council whispered. Every meeting started with a question. Which fleet is missing today? Every meeting ended the same way, with one word burned into a broken ship's hull. Remember. General Vokar stood before the throne of High Chancellor Tazir. But the throne was empty. Tazir had not left his chamber for days. Some said he was ill. Others said he had gone mad. Only Vokar knew the truth. Tazir was afraid. More than afraid, he was broken. Vokar was called to the private chamber. He found the Chancellor sitting alone in the dark. A single hollow screen floated in front of him, playing the same video over and over. The last message from Earth. The screams, the fires, the children, the silence at the end. You killed our world, we begged, you didn't listen. Now we don't speak, we don't beg, we remember. Tazir didn't look up. His voice was flat. We should have destroyed them completely. We left survivors, Vokar replied. We didn't just leave them. We laughed while they begged. The Chancellor's eyes were hollow. And now they're laughing. Vokar stepped forward. They're not laughing. They're remembering. On the far edge of space, a storm was coming. A new human fleet. Stealth ships, cloaked carriers, and boarding pods was gathering. But this time, they weren't just picking off patrols. They were heading for the Zarketh capital. They were coming for the throne. Inside the command ship, remember, Commander Rourke stood before his final team. Only 17 of them now. Each one had scars. Each one had lost everything, and each one had a name carved onto their armor. Someone they failed to save. Rourke spoke quietly. They killed Earth. They made us run. They made us hide. He paused, eyes cold. But they made one mistake. They let us feel pain, and pain remembers. He looked at a young soldier. Vale's younger brother. Today we end it. Not with a bang. Not with fire. But with fear. Back. On Zarketh Prime, alarms rang for the first time in years. The skies darkened. Black shapes entered the atmosphere without warning. No shields. No announcements. Just presence, shadow, and fear. The royal fleet launched. Dozens of Zarketh warships filled the sky. They fired at the human shapes, but nothing hit. The enemy vanished and reappeared at will. Zarketh ships exploded from the inside. Engines failed. Systems went blind. And then, the silence again. Only one ship remained. The Chancellor's personal guard vessel. Tazir stood in the bridge, surrounded by terrified crew. He looked out the window. There, in front of them, was Remember. It hovered like death itself, calm, still, watching. Then a single boarding pod launched. It didn't explode, it didn't shoot, it just attached and opened. Commander Rourke stepped aboard the Chancellor's ship without a word. Zarketh guards aimed their weapons. Rourke didn't flinch. He held up a small black box. Do you want to hear Earth's last breath? He asked. No one moved. He dropped the box. It landed with a soft thud. The audio played automatically. Children crying. A woman screaming, a final whisper. Please, let us live. Then static. Then silence. Tazir stepped forward. What do you want? He asked. Rourke looked at him for a long time, then said one word. You. Back on Remember, the humans waited. Minutes passed. Then a figure was thrown out of the escape pod. Tazir, still alive, still breathing, eyes wide with horror. He had been spared. Inside the human ship, Rourke whispered, one more messenger, one more ghost. He turned to Vale. Take us home. She nodded. Where is home now? She asked softly. Rourke didn't smile. He just said, where they're afraid to follow. Back on Zarketh Prime, Tazir was found on the landing deck. Shaking, barely able to speak, he repeated the same thing again and again. They were never gone. They were becoming. The council dissolved that night. The empire that ruled for 1,000 years cracked like glass. No one called it Zarketh anymore. They called it the empire of silence, and across every wall, every station, every broken fleet, one word was carved in human steel: remember.